He said he was with his friend Marcus. I ran into Marcus that night. Alone. I want to tell you exactly how that happened, and what I did about it, and what I did not do, because the things I didn't do are as important as the things I did. His name was Leon. We had been together for 3 years. 3 years is a specific length of time in a relationship, long enough that the things you have built feel substantial, long enough that you have faced difficulty together and come through it, long enough that you have stopped thinking of the relationship as something new that might or might not work and have started thinking of it as something that simply is. I thought of us that way. I thought of what we had as settled and real. I was wrong about the settled part, not entirely, but in the ways that mattered. Marcus had been Leon's closest friend since university. They played five-a-side on Thursday evenings, they occasionally went to matches together. They had the specific easy familiarity of two people who have known each other long enough that they no longer need to perform anything for each other. I liked Marcus. I had always liked Marcus. He was quiet in groups and funny in small ones, and he had a quality I associate with trustworthy people. He said what he meant without making a production of it. On a Saturday evening in November, Leon told me he was going to watch a match at Marcus's flat. He had done this before, not frequently, but several times a year, enough that it was a known and unremarkable part of his social calendar. I told him to have a good evening. He left at around 6. I made plans of my own for later that evening, a dinner with a colleague I didn't see often, someone from a previous job, a casual friendship maintained through occasional evenings in the neighborhood where we both happened to live. At 8 I left to meet her. The restaurant was in a street I did not walk down very often. On the way there I passed a bar I had been to once or twice, a small place, not busy on Saturdays, the kind that draws regulars and stays quiet enough to hear the music. Marcus was sitting at the bar. Alone. With his phone on the counter and a half-finished drink. I almost walked past. I might have, if he hadn't looked up. We recognized each other at the same moment. There was a second, maybe 2, where we both understood what his being here, alone, meant. His face did something complicated. I watched it do it, the recognition, then the calculation, then a kind of resigned settling, the expression of someone who has been caught in something they didn't entirely choose to be part of. I went in. I sat down next to him and I ordered a drink and we talked for 10 minutes about nothing of consequence, because that was the only conversation available to us in that moment. We talked about the bar, about the November weather, about whether his team had won. We did not talk about Leon. We did not acknowledge the thing we had both just understood. We were two people maintaining the surface of a normal encounter, and we were both doing it badly, and we both knew we were doing it badly. The effort of it sat between us like something physical. When I left I told him it was good to see him. He said the same. I went to dinner with my colleague. I ate and I laughed at the right moments and I held the conversation together for 2 hours, asking questions, and following threads and being entirely present in the way you have to be when you are with someone who deserves your attention. I did not tell my colleague what had just happened. I filed it away carefully and dealt with it alone until the evening was done. On the way home I thought about what I was going to do. I thought about it carefully, because I had several options and each of them had a different cost. I could call Leon and tell him what had happened. I could wait until he came home and tell him in person. I could not tell him at all and see what he said when he walked through the door. I could ask Marcus directly, the next day, what had been going on. Each option gave me different information at a different moment with different consequences for what came after. I chose the last option. Not because it was easiest, but because Marcus was the one who knew what was true, and because the look on his face at the bar had told me something. He was not comfortable with whatever he had been doing. That discomfort was a door. I decided to open it. I texted Marcus that night, something short, something that said only, "I think we should talk tomorrow." He replied within 5 minutes, "Yes." We met in the morning at a coffee place he chose. I did not ask him what Leon had told him. I did not approach it strategically, working around to the subject gradually. I simply told him what I had seen and what I had understood and that I needed him to tell me the truth. I said, I am not asking you to betray him. I am asking you to decide what kind of person you are going to be in this situation. He had had the night to think about it. I think he had already decided. Marcus was quiet for a long time. Long enough that I drank half my coffee. Then he told me what he knew. I am going to protect the details of what Marcus told me, because they are not only mine to share. What I can tell you is that Marcus had been covering for Leon on multiple occasions over the previous 4 months. Not enthusiastically. Not without discomfort. But he had been doing it because Leon had asked him to and because the alternative, telling me, felt, to Marcus, like a line he wasn't sure he had the right to cross. I understood that. I even had some sympathy for it. The position Marcus had been put in was not one he had sought, and the loyalty that had made him cover for Leon was the same loyalty that had made me trust him in the first place. I thanked Marcus for telling me. I told him I didn't hold him responsible for what Leon had done, but that I did hold him responsible for his part in the covering, and that we would not be able to be friends in the same way afterward. He said he understood. He looked like he'd been expecting that, and like he thought it was fair. I told Leon that evening. I told him I had run into Marcus the night before. I told him I had spoken to Marcus in the morning. I told him I already knew what Marcus had told me, and that this conversation was therefore not one where he needed to decide how much to say, because the decision had already been made for him. He asked if Marcus had told me everything. I said yes. I watched him absorb that. He said he was sorry. I said I know. The conversation lasted about 40 minutes. There was nothing dramatic in it. I had had time, by then, to grieve most of what needed to be grieved, in the space between the bar and the morning, and in the morning while I waited to meet Marcus, and in the afternoon when I walked for 2 hours before coming home, thinking about what I was going to say and how I was going to say it and what I needed from the conversation when it finally arrived. I had done most of the hard work before it began. That is not the same as not feeling anything. It is the same as deciding when and how to feel it. What I learned from that evening, from the specific experience of running into Marcus at that bar, is that information has a way of arriving when you are not looking for it, and that what you do in the moment of arrival matters. I did not react on the street. I sat down, had a drink, said nothing. I gave myself time to decide what I needed. That decision, small as it felt in the moment, shaped everything that came after. If you've ever had to carry something through a dinner and act like nothing was wrong, you know exactly how that evening felt. Subscribe to Dark Karma. New story every Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday.